So let's say you found a skeleton. How would you tell it's a dinosaur? You personally, how would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on that.
All right, welcome to Eric with Erika 2, the Squeekquel. We have, of course, Gutsick Given Erika, my co-host for Eric with Erika, as well as my co-host for all sorts of other things. And occasionally I'm her co-host.
As usual, I'm glad to be here. I'm ready to mingle with the Hovens and have a passable time doing it.
Absolutely. And we don't have actually a whole lot to go over beforehand. So basically, Erika with Erika, in case anyone isn't clear, is the show that I do occasionally, either to give Beethoven a break because, you know, sometimes I want to give him a break, or if perhaps he needs a break, or if, like this time, someone said, hey, let's, you should do another Eric with Erika. So I'm like, all right, well, I'll find out. And, of course, Erika was obviously happy to do it.
Bent deserves the break. He breaks his back doing all this stuff, you know?
He does. Although it wasn't his idea. He was not the one who said I need a break. So I don't want to make it seem
He's
like
a workhorse.
He is. He should have breaks, whether he wants them or not. But the only other thing I really have to go over before we get going is real quick. I'm going to say in the description you will of course find Erika's channel linked. But you will also find a link to my other channel where after this, usually an hour to a half hour to an hour after this, I go and play some games for a bit after these streams to help further blow off steam from whatever craziness the Hovens are throwing at me. So there's a link to that channel, or it might actually even be to the stream. But there's also a link to a Twitter poll where you can choose what I'm going to play. The options are, let's see... Total War Warhammer 2, Doom Eternal, Kerbal Space Program, and Space Hulk Deathwing. So if you have a fondness for any of those, or just for watching someone really suck at them because they're drunk, go over and choose one. Other than that, it's time to go over the drinking rules and get into it. So, we have a drinking game for Eric with Erika that is essentially identical to Kent with Bent. However, we do not encourage you to play along because I take no responsibility for any kind of alcohol poisoning or accidents that result from your excessive drinking. None of that. I don't take responsibility. So I do not encourage you to play along. But if you want to, we take a drink whenever the stupid gets just so bad we have to take a drink. Because sometimes that happens. Well, I say sometimes, but it happens a lot. We take a drink whenever Eric actually gets something factually correct where he's not just quoting someone. We also take a drink whenever I hear Godzilla roar, or occasionally when I hear Mothra make her little roar, because those are sound effects I have set up on my phone, so they trigger randomly. So that way, you know, we get a little bit of, you never know what's going to happen thrown in there. And finally, I had suggested, and we're going to try it out and see how it goes. It might go very poorly, but I had suggested that we take a drink whenever Eric Hoven directly rips off his dad.
It's going to be very telling for how much Kent content that Dapper D and I have consumed for the sake of the general public.
Yeah, we watch it so that you don't have to, or at least we watch it uninterrupted. Oh, there's a Godzilla.
Thank God.
And actually, I'm going to turn that up a little bit because it was a little quiet to my ears. I don't know how loud it was for everyone else, but I have headphones on, so...
It was okay, but it certainly could have been a bit louder.
All right, well, let's fix that here. Let's we're gonna take the ringtone down, but notifications up. There you go. And yep, that was Benthoven giving us a little send off with the Godzilla. Let's see.
Bent's trying to get us drunk as usual.
I mean, what else is new, right? We're you know what it is he's living vicariously through us because he stopped drinking, so now he's like, I'm gonna get everyone else drunk.
Yes, we cannot, you know, to reiterate, we cannot recommend that you play this game.
No.
We're seasoned professionals at...
Yeah, I was in the Navy and Eric is in college, so we're good at this.
Hey, cut me a little bit of slack. Technically, I'm post-grad, so
Fair enough.
Drink more, not less.
Oh, and there's more Godzilla. All right, here we go. We're starting back almost exactly where we left off within a second. And Eric has been recently talking about people trying to make ape-human hybrids in the Soviet Union. I don't know if you remember, but that's where we left off. Here we go.
They literally did this experimentation And so it goes to show, look, what you believe really does determine how you behave. And they did this experimentation. None of them have been.
You know, actually, I'm going to drink for what you believe dictates how you behave, because technically it's true. I mean, obviously, how could it not? But I don't think believing in evolution is going to induce you to try and impregnate human women with chimpanzee hybrids.
Well, I'm ready to talk about Dr. Ivan. I think it's Ivanovich. Maybe he'll say his name and confirm that for us, but I'm raring and ready to talk about that. There are some startling things that we know that I hope we never confirm about the hybridization of humans with other hominoids. So let's continue on that cheery note.
Unsuccessful, other than, I'm just kidding. I was going to make a joke about somebody, but that's a low blow, and we're not going there. We're going to keep it on the up and up, all right?
Oh, way to
Wait,
go.
Dapper, can I suggest a new drinking rule?
Oh, okay.
This is just as for consideration for next time, maybe not necessarily here. I think it might be quite fun if we drink every time Eric makes a joke that neither of us laugh at.
You know what? I'm down, because I'm thirsty. Whatever. Let's just do it now.
Okay, deal. Then let's drink for that one. I drink for low blow. Drink for Eric calling someone else a chimpanzee.
Yeah, basically. Not that... One of the things is like, what's so bad about being a chimpanzee? What do you get against chimps?
I know. It's, monkeys and apes get a bad rap for being unruly or wild, and so people are mean to them. I'm out here. They still have shooters out here fighting for them. That's me. I fight for the image of the common primates.
I mean, I'll just say this. I don't know of too many chimpanzees who have decided to starve an entire region to death because that region decided to have a slightly different interpretation of their holy book. But that's going on right now, so... Fair
enough, yes. That is absolutely true.
Drink for Godzilla. And again. All right, here we go.
Yeah, controlling your mouth. I
just
love
had
it.
to control that. Sorry.
Yeah, it certainly does have an effect on your actions. And so what about Java Man? Now, I can tell you this much. After much research, I came to find out that Java Man is the original inventor of coffee. And turns out his first name is Joe. So
Drink
what can you tell me
Drink
beyond
for that, Dapper.
Oh yeah, we didn't laugh. That was supposed to be a joke. Oh my goodness. Also, rather ironically, Java Man just hopped in chat to say that your video is a little bit bright, but when we
my video?
Yeah, a little bit.
It's always like that.
I know.
I'm always looking a bit ghoulish, and I'm trying to fix that. But
you got sort of the vampire look going on. Oh, you should just get fake fangs, and then you can actually just go with the vampire look.
I should have gone with an albino gibbon, since that's kind of what my on-screen presence is. You can't even see half my nose because it's washed out by my lighting. So, but we're working on it, guys. I'm sorry.
We are actually. Erika and I are working on lighting. I'm trying to work with what she can do to help work with that. Maybe after we get drinks, like when you get another drink, just turn the light so that it faces down and it'll bounce all around the room maybe a little bit, and that might tone it down a little bit.
Yeah, that's what we need to do instead of reaching over and messing with it. Before we move on, notice that he's changed the subject there. So for those of you out there who are thinking to yourselves, well, that is quite a good point, because we know that there are many animals out there that are closely related and they can hybridize, which is what, great Father Kent, Kent Sr., likes to propose as a definition for kind, is those that can bring forth, so to speak. But it's important to realize that the reproductive isolation that occurs between different species is very pressure dependent, and with humans, that isolation isn't nearly as settled as this Kent Jr. would like to make you think, or Hovind Jr. rather, because the only thing that, to my knowledge at least, based off of the theoretical work that's been done, that prevents the insemination either way of the egg by the sperm, crossing between our genus Homo and genus Pan, is the fact that the zona pellucida, which is a layer that wraps around the egg, gate checks sperm. So basically, when it comes in, it says, okay, either you are part of the species, we'll let you in, or you're not, and we won't. Like a little chemical enzymatic key, almost.
Yeah.
So hypothetically, what does that mean? It means if you bypass the zona pellucida, something might happen, which is concerning, and I certainly hope we don't test that out. But the theoretical work on it seems to suggest that you might get something viable.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. And
we have a $2.99 redo super chat from Ian Chen, who says, Erika, when's that Amazon wishlist coming with 5 question marks? So that's a pretty big question.
Ian's trying to buy things for me again. Ian, stop trying to buy things for
me. Ian, the first, or well, actually, I guess it's the second thing you got from my Amazon wishlist got here. I just got my copy of Evolution Slam Dunk today, and I started reading it. So after thoroughly disinfecting my hands from the package, because I don't know where that package has been. However, I know the book inside of it has been sealed in there for days, so I wasn't too worried about the book. So. Very true, yes. Yeah. At first I wasn't. I thought about it. I was like, no, it's been in there for like, 2 weeks? Just nothing survived in there. So yeah, let's keep going. But Erika, you gotta get that Amazon wishlist going. I know. No? I'm getting on it slowly but surely. All right. It is a nice way that people can help support the channel very directly without feeling like they have to just toss some money at you. It's a very specific. Like, I want this thing, so here we go.
Oh, he enjoyed his cup of joe. That's right, man. Java Man is another one that's supposedly this missing link, this half man, this half ape, actually discovered in Indonesia.
I just hate the idea of something that's half man, half ape, because it's like saying something that's half wolf, half canine.
Oh, I know.
Or like, oh, look, I found a lizard, but it's half lizard, half reptile. What? What does that mean? It means nothing.
Yes, and please, if you're playing a game with a creationist friend, IRL, where you're bickering back and forth and they propose that humans aren't apes, ask them what actually makes us not apes, and I guarantee you the answer is going to be something behavioral. Like we talk or we build space shuttles or something rather arbitrary. And then say, no, morphologically, like, things that are actually directly phenotypic, what makes us not apes.
I love the space shuttle one because it's like, all right, so humans were apes in the 19th century. But they became not apes once the first space shuttle was built. But at Apollo 11, they were still apes because there weren't any space shuttles. Okay.
Exactly. So we just missed that cutoff,
Basically, like what a generation ago is when the first humans that weren't apes appeared. Is basically what's going on. Yeah, it's a very recent arrival. Oh, and drink for Godzilla. Here we go. Let's get some more Eric in here.
Indonesia. It was the Dutch East Indies at the time, and this is back in 1892. On the island of Java. They discovered a thigh bone, and really the thigh bone that they discovered is very similar to modern human beings today.
As you expect.
About a year earlier at the same location, they had discovered a large skull cap. And they thought, well, maybe this is from the same person. And then later they discovered 3 teeth. So a skull cap, 3 teeth, and a human thigh bone. Now, these are not necessarily all from the same individual. They were discovered about 50 feet apart. So I don't know if it was something that tore the individual apart or what happened, or maybe they got ate. Based on the skull cap, they think the brain size of what this was about 900 cubic centimeters, which is about 2/3 that of the average modern human being. And bottom line is, Java Man, he was trumpeted around the world as indisputable proof of human.
All right, I just want to pause real quick. Was his description of the find reasonably accurate? Because I don't actually know.
It's reasonably accurate. I very much don't like the idea of calling like a femur though a thigh bone. You would think that we would be picking up at least basal understanding of anatomy at this point when you've been doing this as long as Eric has.
Well, I'll give him a little bit of a pass because like if I were trying to talk to a general audience who I had no expectation of like their anatomical level of understanding, I might also use that phrase, a thigh bone. So
you might, but I would wager you would say, yeah, they found a femur, like a thigh bone, and then move on. You know,
Alright, yeah.
it's like a missed opportunity for a little bit of, hey, look,
education.
I kind of know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Big missed opportunity. Now, I'm not sure whether Erika's going to go the route here that Java Man is an ape of the ape kind, quote unquote, or of the human kind here, because he's kind of shown his hand by going over the probable brain case size of Java Man in particular, but at the same time, the average that's usually toted around for Erectus, which is sometimes 900, sometimes 1,000, and sometimes like 850, depending on who you talk to. Which is very much intermediate, particularly since for those of you who've heard me talk about this before, we know that brain case size evolved after bipedality. So you had a lot of very human-ish looking animals walking around that had, you know, the IQ of a very smart chimp.
Right.
You know, so this is showing his hand a bit, but let's see where he goes with it. He's kind of walked himself into a corner either way.
First, I'll say, for giving a reasonably accurate description, I'm gonna drink for Eric getting something right, because that seemed to be from memory. That was memory. So good job, Eric. But I actually have a suspicion, and I don't know because I can't remember. But I have a suspicion he might say that the femur and the skull cap aren't from the same animal.
Well, and the thing is that with paleontology, I suppose from one standpoint, he would be correct in saying you don't know for sure. But particularly when there's only a single find and you're finding, you know, a hominoid-looking skull cap and then a hominoid-looking femur and you know, almost nothing else other than some teeth that are also hominoid, it's a fair bet to say, okay, well, the conditions that probably buried, you know, this fossil were probably very similar, bone rather, were probably very similar to the ones that buried this one.
Yep.
It might be a fair assessment to say this is from the same individual, and I do think that it is.
And it's consistent with other Homo erectus finds from around the world as a single individual.
Right, and that's the thing. Now that we have more knowledge of the subject and more specimens found, we can go back and say, yes, it does look like they're from the same specimen because we know what typical Homo erectus looks like.
Right.
Which I know he's going to bring up Lucy, but it's the same thing with Lucy, where they're like, Lucy was only a partial skeleton, and they don't even have the skull all the way put together, or her hands, you know, or whatever the stuff they like to tout.
Okay.
But we have other specimens, so the point is somewhat moot now.
Yep. Well, let's see where he goes.
Human evolution, and the textbooks, of course, in the magazines were filled with these images of Java Man, and this is absolute scientific evidence that you know, they called him the erected ape because, man, here we have we know this thigh bone is one that stands up straight, and yet he's got a smaller brain, so obviously this is half man, half ape. Here's what they didn't tell.
I'm just gonna drink for that being stupid. Because Eric is here implying that the reason that we know about Homo erectus is essentially just from this one find, which is not even close to true. But
I mean, that's Lucy syndrome, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we see this all the time with creationists. At least the ones that I've met are certainly very much like this.
Yeah, you pick a famous find of a species. It's like if it's the same thing as pretending that every single Allosaurus is Big Al, even though he's one Allosaurus and not actually super representative because of the extensive pathologies. So, I mean, he's interesting, cool find. It was fairly complete, but it's not the only Allosaurus. Or saying that Stan or Sue are the only T-Rex. It's like, no, that's not how paleontology works. It is sometimes. Like, there are, taxa in the paleontological record with only one specimen. But, sorry, Homo erectus and Australopithecines, those aren't in that category. But we'll see what happens.
Right.
To the scientific community for about 30 years. They found 2 normal human skeletons in the same general area.
Did they?
So, while you found these same things...
So they didn't?
Well, wait, repeat. Were you asking me?
Oh, yeah. Did they actually find 2 normal human skeletons in the same cave in the same find?
Not that I know of, and even if they, they might have at another juncture, I think if we looked into this, and I bet we could, I might pull it up in the meantime, because it's been quite some time since I've looked at the specifics of the location where Java Man was found. But I would wager that if we looked into this, we would find that they're probably within very different strata.
Right, and drink for Godzilla. Oh,
but let's look it up while he keeps talking.
Well, first, we didn't actually go over what we were drinking. What do you got? You got some cider?
Oh, no. Tonight I'm drinking Michelob Ultra because...
Okay.
That's all I have.
That's a good reason. Well, I am drinking some vodka that I poured into a Coke to make it palatable because that's all I have.
Yep. Yeah.
So
yeah, it's been some time since I've been out, and actually the last time Luke was here, when I picked up my ciders, because normally he's not a big cider guy, I grabbed some of these because I thought I remembered that he preferred those to ciders if given the opportunity, because they didn't have any pale ales, which is what he normally likes, and yeah, and I brought him out, and he was like, "What makes you think I like those?" I was like, "I don't." I guess it was a false memory. I don't know. For some reason, I thought,
Whoops.
and then so then he poached my ciders and left me with all these Michelob Ultras that I now have to drink.
Well, condolences. At least we're giving you an
I
excuse
know.
to get through them.
I know
right.
it's really been trying, of course.
Here we go.
And here's what I find interesting. If you find human bones and chimp bones in the same area, and the chimp bones are broken, like the skull is broken, what can we infer from that? You realize there are people in Africa right now that eat monkey brains. That is one of the things that they eat. So I look at this, and I look at this evidence, and I go, hang on just a second. How do we know this isn't humans that were eating monkeys? And that's where they inhabited, that's where they lived, and so that was part of their diet. This has nothing to do with evolution.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and take a quick drink there. So oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, please. I've been taking all the good ones. You take this one.
Well, one thing about the bushmeat trade in Africa, which is basically what he's talking about, where poachers go into wildlife preserves and they kill all sorts of crazy animals to give stupid tourists a chance to eat some exotic animal. It's not very easy if you're hunting with bows. Like, a chimpanzee is not the kind of thing that's going to be easy to fell with a bow. It requires some pretty sophisticated traps and some pretty sophisticated weaponry. In fact, actually, lowland gorillas have now been observed disarming hunters' traps. So they've figured out how to disarm bear traps, which is kind of wild, actually. That they're just like, oh, hey, here's a trap. I know those are bad. Let's fix that. So, but yeah, do we have any evidence at all of basically Stone Age humans feeding on other hominoids?
No, not that I'm aware of. The only potential example would be there have been proposals that what some people would consider Ergaster, right, would engage, which is, I would consider Erectus. I don't think Ergaster is anything other than a variety of Erectus, but I'm totally mistaken. Ancestor, Homo ancestor.
Okay.
Post leaving Africa, mind you, maybe engaged in a bit of cannibalism, but certainly what we're not seeing, at least what we have zero evidence of, is two vastly different organisms within the hominid family tree eating one another. Like, we don't find any hominid-looking teeth marks on, like, Afarensis or, on Erectus, right?
Yeah.
It seems to me very much that Animensis is kind of this isolated group, and it might even be population specific.
Right.
Like, it might not even be like, hey, Animensis just kind of like the taste of human flesh. Like, it might have been early rituals.
One thing so if you look at Homo sapiens cannibalism, where it occurs, it tends to occur in two contexts. One is after a conflict between groups of Homo sapiens, and the other one is in funerary rites.
Right. There's almost no
cannibalism.
Sorry.
It's all right. There's a delay.
Killing us.
I know. Yeah, so cannibalism in Homo sapiens, like, there really aren't any Homo sapien groups that make Homo sapiens a major part of their diet. It's always an exceptional thing that only occurs under certain circumstances. And so I'll put it mildly, I am extremely skeptical of the hominid predation by ancient Javan Homo sapiens hypothesis. Extremely skeptical.
Yeah, I would say that you can't even consider it really a hypothesis because there's nothing to support it. Like as far as I am aware in the literature, I don't think that there's anything solid to emphasize that Erectus was going around, or Aragaster, again, if you want to consider it its own thing, eating each other. It's possible that they did, but we don't have any reason to suggest that they did at this moment. And we certainly have no reason to suggest that it was in the context of Java Man.
Right. Okay.
The skull cap, it could have belonged to some kind of extinct ape, the leg bone to an ordinary human. So just because they're found within 50 feet of each other doesn't mean...
Oh, we don't usually announce it, but I like to drink for correct predictions, and I did predict that he was going to say that the thigh bone, the femur, whatever, we'll use his word, the thigh bone and the skull cap were different animals. So I'm going to drink for a correct prediction on that one. Also, actually, I think we have to drink for Eric ripping off Kent, because Kent talks about people eating monkey brains. He usually says in Asia, not Africa, though. Does that count as a direct ripoff, or is that indirect enough?
No, we can count that.
Okay, you're just thirsty.
The thing is that I find it very hard to believe that they both came up with that talking point separately. Right. So at the very least, it's inspired heavily.
Okay, here we go.
That this is the same animal. So
right, and I guess the teeth were actually found in a different area nearby, so not even within 50 feet.
Yeah,
it was another dig.
Oh, drink for Godzilla.
So if somebody, like I said, if somebody says, "Look, I just want," you would not take that evidence and say, "Fine, I'm not going to believe in God because of that." You would have to be looking.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to drink because Eric, that's right. That isn't a good reason not to believe in God.
Yeah, and we can make that also a drink for something correct and a drink for something stupid simultaneously.
Oh, yeah, you're right. That's two drinks, right? You managed to be stupid and correct at the same time, Eric. That is frankly amazing. But yeah, if you think that the existence of Homo ergaster or Homo erectus or however the taxonomic beat 'em up goes, we'll just go with Homo erectus because no one is disputing that name.
Yeah.
If you think that the existence of Homo erectus is an argument against God, that's stupid. I'm not here to argue for or against God, but that's a stupid reason not to believe in him.
Well, yeah, and it flies in the face of statistics, which is creationists apparently love those. But the second that it shows that most people who accept evolution are Christians, and most Christians who have a relationship with evolution in general accept it.
Yeah.
Come on.
And actually, it's something I've been noticing a lot in the creationists who comment on my stuff. They're like, "Oh, atheist," and I'm like, if this isn't a channel about atheism or for atheists specifically, like atheists are welcome here, as are Christians or Buddhists or Hindus or Jews or Muslims or anything else. I don't care. As long as we're getting the science right, then your particular faith position isn't an issue on this channel, nor should it be. And if I'll be honest, if you're in the comments or in my chat saying, attacking someone for their religious position, please don't, because that's not what I'm here for.
Exactly, I'm with you on that. There's no reason why there needs to be such a clash. But
yeah,
whatever.
I mean, hey, if you want specifically atheist content, it's all over YouTube. Go find it. It's just not here. And if you're a creationist and you're watching this, please take my word for that. I am not lying about that. I am not here to promote or talk about atheism, even though it seems like a lot of creationists like to conflate the scientific consensus with atheism, even though they're not the same thing.
Well, and I think it's because a whole lot of them think that evolutionary theory is what spurs atheism, which I don't think that many of them have had a conversation with an atheist as to why they feel the way that they do.
Yeah, I know of a few where that was a major concern, but not very many. It's pretty uncommon for me to run across an atheist who says that evolution was the thing that really convinced them. They usually give other answers, things like the problem of evil, or just the general lack of positive evidence, or, the unreliability of whatever scripture they claim happens to be unreliable, things like that. But evolution specifically, not usually. I think it was for Paul Enns from Apologia. He's the only one I can actually think of specifically that I know of. So...
Yeah, and I think Paul, I've heard him say, too, that divine hiddenness was an aspect for him as well, that played a pretty prominent role. I mean, I could be wrong. I'm not trying to mischaracterize him. That I feel like I might have remembered him at least bringing that up as as a partial factor.
Paul, if on the off chance you're watching, you can send all your hate mail to Erika for getting you wrong.
I get enough of it. Jeez.
Oh, I think Paul is far too nice to do that.
Yeah, I do too. Thank God.
Okay, here we go.
At this saying, I want to believe in evolution.
Oh, drink for
I want
Godzilla.
to reject the idea that we are specially created in order to say that I'm going to use that to fit the evolution of mankind from ape-like ancestors to humans.
I'm going to drink again because that was stupid.
Yeah, I'll join you in that.
And here's the reason. Like, if you said, okay, hey, Dapper, for the next 10 minutes, you get to be the one who decides the origin of the human species, I would probably have chose some kind of special creation because that would be cooler. Honestly, like, that would be all sorts of crazy sci-fi stuff, or, you know, it would make... I would prefer that humans had a special origin that would not just be as ordinary. Honestly, I would. Now, other people might disagree.
Yeah, I think most people would agree with you. I being someone who loves primates, I don't have a problem with it.
Well, I don't have a problem. It's just that if you ask me, would you rather humans be completely original or be a derived something else? Original sounds good to me.
It's we're actually getting a lot of stuff in the comments of people noting that either that evolution played very small or no role in either their faith or lack thereof, which awesome. Thank you for your input. I appreciate it. That's the point we're trying to make.
And,
you know?
And we have, first we have a quick $2 super chat from Adam Morgan who says, hit the like, which I agree, hit the like button. We got 61 people watching by my count and only 27 likes, guys. And
smash the like button, guys.
Right. Break your mouse because you smashed the mouse button so hard. No, don't do that because I'm not going to pay the bill for your new mouse.
Smash the like button. Ring that bell. What else do they say?
Oh, subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Right, yep. Also, we have a $2 due super chat from Christopher Hugan who says, "Love the show, YouTube. Thank you very much."
Thank you, Chris.
And we also have Black Hisser noting that Black Hisser is a Catholic and evolution doesn't stop me from being one. Yeah.
You go.
I went to a Catholic high school and evolution was taught. And, drink for Mothra. And we also have someone whose name is Chinese and I don't remember how to pronounce, even though I looked it up last time. Sorry. Says science leads to neither atheism nor theism. It's neutral. I would say that overall that tends to be true. I do know some people who claim to have had science push them in one direction or the other. Oh my goodness, Mothra.
Bent. What do you do?
No, Bent usually triggers Godzilla. Mothra tends to actually be pretty darn random because no one knows what that sound means.
Huh.
So here we go.
You would never look at it that way if you weren't predisposed to think like that.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Isn't Java Man still taught in the textbook?
Oh my goodness.
You know what? They are still teaching Java Man today.
So, Peking Man. Who's this Peking Man?
Peking Man, yeah, he's the one who you don't want him looking in your window. That's the one you don't want. Hey, Peking Man, get out of here, boy.
No laugh.
Peking Man, it's the common name.
I will actually say that one was slightly better. I grinned slightly, but I didn't laugh.
See, it actually made me madder.
Really? All
yeah,
right.
I was like, you think poor Homo erectus doesn't get enough flack for its name? Like,
that's true. I hadn't thought about that. Oh, poor Homo erectus. I'm sorry.
I know. They're doing their best.
Well, they were doing their best. Then the Homo sapiens sort of replaced them everywhere.
But they had a good run. Their run is probably going to be quite a bit longer than ours will be.
Yours. Speak for yourself, Homo sapiens lady.
Fair enough.
All right, let's get a little bit more, Eric.
For one of the original, what they call Homo erectus fossils to be discovered, I was actually unearthed between 1923 and 1927. Remember, all during this time. There is a race. They're going, look, human evolution is true. We just need to prove it. Human evolution is true. We just need the evidence. So this whole time from the late 1800s and early 1900s, they are in a frenzy trying to find this evidence for evolution that Darwin said would be available.
Yeah, that's what you do when you have a hypothesis that you want to either show or disconfirm. You look for evidence for or against What's the other option? Honestly. And also, we got a $2.99 review super chat from Ian Chen. Sorry, can't watch live, guys. Get Amazon list, Erika. Erika, if you don't get your Amazon wish list out soon, I think Ian Chen is going to lose it.
I know. Ian is trying to bully me and buy me things. You know what, Ian? You make an Amazon wish list, and then I'll buy you everything you want.
Oh,
that'll be my revenge.
One from Mothra. We'll see that, Ian. You have to make one, and then Erika will make one, and then you can exchange gifts.
Yeah, we can be little gift pen pals. Perfect.
That actually does sound like fun. So we're gonna go. Although not too many more drinks, I'm gonna have to get another beverage.
Yeah, I might have to in a minute too.
Okay. Well, when we do, I have a little movie we can play in the background, and oh my goodness, Mothra.
Mothra needs to relax.
I think she's just happy about the lack of pollution, because as we all know, Mothra is just a stand-in for environmentalist causes.
True. Okay, wait, quick question. Are Mothra are Mothra and Godzilla like an item? Is that
well, there's really no hint of any kind of romance. However, they are more often than not friends.
Right. I've heard them as the king and queen of monsters occasionally, so I was wondering if it was more than just platonic.
No, for one thing, Mothra seems to be completely asexual in reproduction, and Godzilla doesn't seem to reproduce except in that crappy movie with Matthew Broderick.
Oh god, the 1998 Godzilla?
Yeah, the one we don't talk about. Also,
Oh my god, the one with the babies in the subway?
Yeah, we don't talk about that one.
I love that movie, but not in a conventional sense.
Ironically, that's fine. We also have yet another $2.99 reduced super chat from Ian Chen. That's not a gentle 8 response. Just get it. With a big old smiley face. All right. But so Mothra and Godzilla are like, they tend to be pals, but not like any kind of romance thing.
Gotcha. Roger that.
All right.
So they're looking all over the place, digging and doing excavations. Well, it was the Peking Man was discovered near Beijing, China, because Beijing was actually originally named Peking, just so you know.
I'm going to drink for that because it's almost right.
Oh, fair enough.
What actually is the case is that Peking and Beijing come from different romanizations for Chinese. And so the name didn't actually change in Chinese, which... Oh, Mothra. Mothra, she is driving me crazy today. But yeah, so it's really just a change in how Westerners transliterated what I think is Mandarin into the Latin alphabet. But it's really close, and it's so nitpicky to point out the difference that I almost feel bad about doing it.
No, I appreciate it, because I didn't know that, so...
Yeah.
It was originally announced to be a new hominid species based on a tooth. One tooth, slightly altered is what they said, made this thing distinct. And then they made models of it. They drew pictures of it. They made sculptures at this time of Peking Man, put them in the natural history museums of the world. Later, though, it was revealed that there were several more skulls and jawbones discovered around that area, and all of them were human-like. They were not ape-like or halfway in between. What's interesting is they continued to use Peking Man as evidence of evolution.
So he seems to be saying that Peking Man is Homo sapiens, but as far as I know, that is completely wrong. But
no, it is. Peking Man, to my knowledge, is classified as Erectus as well. And the weird thing is, you're right. They do this a lot. They want to fit all of the hominids into nice little boxes, which you're going to have quite a hard time doing with that. As he just mentioned, we found a bunch of other skulls, and indeed they're very human-like. Well, yes, they are, because the way, at least that I like to classify transitional fossils sort of in a colloquial fashion, is they're organisms. They're arbitrary, first of all, because everything's transitional, but they're arbitrary, stepwise organisms between organism A or organism B, which you pick as the arbiter of what are we looking at lineage wise, and they're always based on a ratio of traits. What's their trait ratio? Is it from basal to derived? And the thing is if you're looking at anything in genus Homo, you're inevitably going to see a higher ratio of derived traits when compared to basal. You know, you're going to have a lot of derived nuance to them because they're all already bipedal, obviously.
Right.
You know, so what we're really looking at here is craniofacial features, nuance of the pelvis, efficiency of bipedality, and brain case size, which is going to be quite difficult as someone looking at Homo erectus because erectus is super basal in the craniofacial region, and its brain case, as we said earlier, is kind of low.
Yeah.
You know, it's 2/3 of a modern human's. And that is definitely outside of the range of what we see in adult, anatomically conventional humans, so to speak.
Yeah,
people without some kind of genetic issue.
Yeah, a brain case that small in Homo sapiens would be a pathology, not a variation. Right. Also, we have a quick thing from Mage Grey Wolf who asks, what about Little Godzilla? I'm going to interpret that to be referring to the kaiju often referred to as Minya, Manila, or Godzilla Jr. And at no point is it ever actually likely or even less confirmed that this is in fact the biological offspring of Godzilla. In the Heisei era, it was explicitly not Godzilla's biological offspring. It was a member of a different species in the same genus, actually explicitly stated in the movie where he appears first, because he's in 3 of them. And in the Showa era, he was essentially discovered already as a hatched and somewhat developed monster on Monster Island. And in the only Millennium era movie where he appears, it's completely ambiguous as to where he came from. And he's honestly the worst part of that movie, which is Godzilla Final Wars, which is a crazy movie already. Ever seen Godzilla Final Wars?
No, I haven't, but I'm very keen on making a trip to Monster Island.
Well, be careful. Make sure they have all their monster sedating gas in place and whatnot. But,
yeah, see, I'm hoping that I'll get here and King Kong will protect me if we're dealing with the modern universe where King Kong is in the group.
But at least in the Showa era, King Kong wasn't on Monster Island, despite being in the Showa continuity.
Really? That's very weird.
They left him on Odo Island, which was his home in the Showa continuity, where he appeared in only 1 film.
Poor King Kong. He's too small to be going up against the big boys.
Well, in the Showa era, they beefed him up to be the same size as Godzilla for the Showa era, which was 50 meters.
That's a big ape.
Yes, it is. Oh, God, Mothra.
Yeah.
Actually, that means I need to get myself a drink.
I was going to say I do as well. Play the video. Well, whatever we got.
Yeah, okay. But I do want to put out one quick little bit of trivia, which is if you watch King Kong vs. Godzilla, the original Showa era film, pay attention to how long King Kong's arms are, because they vary in length considerably throughout the film. And we'll tell you why when I come back.
Ooh, a cliffhanger.
I want to take a moment to talk about something serious. There is a problem facing late surviving non-avian dinosaurs in modern America. Hunting is very strictly regulated, and only allowed at certain times of the year. This means that for much of the year we have to rely on farm-raised food, which means money. If you want to help a starving dinosaur, please consider donating on Patreon, or buying from my merch store. Links are in the description. Please help. Dinosaurs all over YouTube are depending on you to help them through the hunting off-season.
All right, and we're back. Let's see. The reason, by the way, that the Godzilla or King Kong arms vary greatly in length between different shots in King Kong versus Godzilla is because they actually had two sets of arms. One where the actor's hands actually reached into gloves for Godzilla for scenes where he needs to do things like punch Godzilla directly or pick up objects. Oh, and there's Mothra.
Thank God we were prepared.
I know. And another longer set that were more in line with the actual proportions of gorilla arms that were used for wide shots. Yeah. So there you go. Oh my goodness. I might have to turn Mothra off. She's gonna kill me tonight.
She's gonna kill both of us.
I know. Although I think what you're drinking is probably a bit less strong than what I'm drinking.
Yeah, but you're forgetting I'm a huge lightweight.
Oh, and I'm a giant dinosaur.
Fair enough.
Well, actually, as far as dinosaurs go, I'm a bit more in the medium size, but which actually people don't seem to realize. Like, they're like, oh yeah, but you're like the size of a T-Rex. And I'm like, no, go watch the video where I took you on a tour of a T-Rex skeleton, because I'm to scale with a T-Rex. I'm not nearly that big. All right.
Quite big nonetheless, but not quite that big.
Yes. Here we go.
I was reading on creationwiki.org, and it was saying that...
No, drink for that. That's drink for something stupid. Reading on Creation Wiki.
Although, to be fair, I have read on it to find out what kind of things creationists say. But
yeah,
not...
I was just being petty.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough.
They got some funding from the Rockefeller Foundation. I'm looking at it here now. From the Rockefeller Foundation to actually go and do more excavations. And it was in 1927 that they discovered the tooth. And they claimed that this was a new species of hominid. When in reality, they didn't find anything brand new or new species. All they found is bones that are similar to humans today. That's it. So,
they found more Homo erectus. That's what they were... I'm drinking for it. Oh my goodness. They found exactly what they were looking for. More specimens of Homo erectus to increase the data set with which we base our ideas about Homo erectus. It's like if you went to the beach, right? And you found a cool sand dollar. And we're like, well, that was cool. And then you decide, you know what I want to do? I want to collect a sand dollar collection so I can see how much they weigh, how long they are, how, to what degree they're asymmetrical, all these things, right? And so you save up and you take another trip to the beach on your next vacation. And you find a whole bunch of more sand dollars. And then your friend's like, you just found more sand dollars. What good is that? And it's like, well, that's the whole point. That's why I was going. I'm trying to get a big, collection of sand dollars. Why would that? He's like, yeah, but you already found one. Like, yeah, exactly. I only found one. I want more.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, the equivalent is Erika sitting here like, you didn't even find a new hominid. And it's like, yeah, you're right.
Exactly. Like, okay. And for $2.99 redos, Ian Chen says, Dapper just sent something small to you. Okay, fine. Ian, man, like I said, you're gonna put my hypothetical kids through college at this rate.
No, Ian is literally too generous.
Yeah,
Ian,
I'm hoping,
coming for you.
I'm hoping he's independently wealthy, because if I find out that I'm the cause of financial hardship, I'm going to feel really bad.
I think he's just an absolute sweetheart. I think that's the culprit.
That probably is it. And
Ian, your pro-sociality is taking over.
Get more into your lizard brain, man.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Although, no, that's the part of your brain that makes you hoard toilet paper, so don't do that.
That's true too, but that you get it. It's a pun.
Yeah. Yes. Ooh, got it. Okay. Although actually, the toilet paper hoarding has now become a necessity for people who don't want to hoard toilet paper just because you can't find it anywhere. So now I'm in this unfortunate condition where I always buy it if it's around, because I don't know when it will be around next. But I don't want to be hoarding it. I just don't have a choice. Because what if I run out? Because some asshole bought $10,000 worth of toilet paper one day.
Yeah, there's an irrationally angry part of me when I see posts on Reddit and the like where it's just people coming out with pallets full of toilet paper, And then I'm always like, you know what? It's time to take the optimistic route. Maybe they're donating it, but we all know they're not.
They're not. Although, if I keep going, it'll start to become a discussion about price gouging laws, and I don't want to have that discussion.
Oh God, economics, get it away.
Oh, hey, you know what? I had my economics professor really try hard to get me to both tutor economics and minor in it.
Huh.
I was that good in that class. She was
Oh,
like, you're really good at this. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to do it. Like, it's I'm good at it, but like, it's like me in math, right? Like, people are like, oh, why don't you tutor math? I'm like, because I don't want to sit around doing math all day. I hate that.
Oh my God, I know. Yeah, my sister's working on algebra 2 stuff, something like that. She's taking one of the many. It's an online course. It's not online because of the virus, but it's another thing she's having to do. And my dad is the one who's been helping her with it, and he's like, I'll pay you if you'll tutor her. And I was like, there's not enough money in the world to get you to sit down and do algebra 2 voluntarily at my age. I'm not doing it, you know.
Yeah, actually, I am. There's a fair chance that I'm going to end up tutoring English I believe as a second language, but that is actually something I'm much more inclined to do. For one thing, my minor, which is medieval and Renaissance studies, is actually an interdisciplinary minor. It's history and English. So, although the English classes that I took that counted were Old English and evolution of the English language, and then like one other. So it was still a very historically based set of English classes, which is
You've got an odd treasure trove of knowledge, Dapper.
I do. I know some Old English. Actually, Thursday there's going to be an FAQ video coming out, and it will list the languages that I've studied to any extent. So,
hell yeah, that is cool.
Yeah, and also, by the way, when you get to the part that's in Klingon, just keep going. Only a little bit's in Klingon.
That sounds like a warning.
It's a little bit of a warning, but there's subtitles, so don't worry. All right, here we go.
So, not exactly evidence of evolution, unless, of course, you want it to be. If you want it to be evidence of evolution, of course, then yeah, it would be.
What?
And I have seen Peking Man on some evolutionary websites being touted as solid example evidence for evolution.
Yeah.
It's interesting. This episode is going to have something for everybody because you can strap on your tinfoil hat here. The Rockefeller Foundation gave Davidson Black, the guy that discovered this, $80,000. And after he passed away, a Jesuit who is one of the fathers of mysticism. A lot of my listeners I get into some of the New Age
religions. Yeah.
That's right. And Teilhard de Chardin,
hold on, Dapper. Let me get this straight. In my very slightly buzzed state, I want to make sure that we're on the same page here. So, is what I'm hearing correct, that the theory of evolution, or at least the continued support of it at this time period that they're talking about, exists because the Rockefellers, in addition to a group of mysticists, are intentionally pumping the big bucks into paleontology to prove that humans are evolved from an ape-like ancestor?
I wouldn't say that they would go so far as to say that's the only reason, but it does seem like they're saying that there's a distinct conspiracy from such people to keep it going.
Okay. I was just making sure I was picking up on that right.
Is that stupid enough?
Yes, I think it is. Okay. That's such an odd thing to propose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like the people who blame George Soros for everything. And it's like, a lot of the evidence that's used for, say, things like the evolution of archosaurs and archosauromorphes and Dinosauria. You want to know what particular politically active person has funded a lot of that? Newt Gingrich.
Huh, really?
Newt Gingrich donates heavily to Mesozoic archosaur and related digs.
I love finding out that random famous people types are interested in dinosaurs. Did you hear the one about how Nick Cage, when he was about to go broke for one of the many times in his cycle of wealth, he had to surrender to a museum it was some like wickedly in the multi-billion-dollar like Tyrannosaur specimen that he
I
just
did
had
hear
bought
about that. Yeah, that
to
does sound
keep in
familiar.
his home. And I was like, that's the kind of rich you want to be, you know, like that you can just drop money on. Not that you should, you know, because I firmly believe that those specimens belong in places where people can enjoy them.
Just like Indiana Jones said, that belongs in a museum.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, exactly. But you know, imagine that kind of wealth that you want to buy a T-Rex, you know, specimen, and then you do.
Yeah, it's a little crazy. I'm somewhere around the point where like the consideration of getting a 3D printed Tyrannosaurus skull at a small scale is still pretty questionable. Never mind, like, oh hey, let's just buy this actual T-Rex specimen. Like, no,
yeah, what a world we live in.
Yeah, but we'll keep going with Eric. But yes, remember, if you buy a dinosaur, that belongs in a museum.
It belongs in a museum.
And actually, there is an ethical consideration in paleontology that basically says that privately held specimens that are not in museums, because you can loan a privately owned specimen to a museum, but if it's in a private collection and not in a museum, it is not generally allowed to be published on.
I think that's fair enough.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
I mean, you shouldn't get to hoard that to yourself and then not allow others to peer review it.
And that's the big thing, is because it becomes nearly impossible to guarantee that other people will be able to do independent work on that fossil. So.
Yeah. You know, it's never good practice to have a specimen that you keep to yourself and don't let others see. Dapper and I have been talking about the merits and you know, inherent unethical aspects of specimen quite a bit recently. Have we not?
We have, actually, regarding one Mark Armitage.
Yes.
Which there may be one more video coming out about. I think maybe.
Yes, that's what we're hoping.
Okay, yeah, because he recently, if you haven't been following this, it's primarily been on Erika's channel. Go take a look. Her channel's linked in the description. But yeah, basically, someone found a quote-unquote Triceratops horn. It has no provenance, and he claims to have found ridiculously copious amounts of soft tissue that's still stretchy and pliable and essentially the original molecules. And we are, to put it mildly, extremely skeptical of the methodology and honesty of one Mark Armitage, who's not a doctor, doesn't claim to be a doctor even, despite what's standing for truth put in a recent video.
It's not just the soft tissue. For those of you out there that are curious in quite a brief fashion, he's also claiming to have discovered osteocytes in this Triceratops horn, which looks suspiciously like and was found in the proper secondary deposit to be a specimen of bison latifrons, which is just, you know, it's a bison horn that was also likely contaminated because, interestingly enough, the half-life of an osteocyte makes it not just difficult for 65 million years to be, you know, the expiration date for this Triceratops, if it is indeed a Triceratops, but it also makes 4,400 years impossible as well. So it's an odd paradox that we're seeing from Mark and company. And our next video will probably address Armitage's responses to the idea that it might be a bison, which are, to put it mildly, wholly inadequate. Yeah, responses or lack thereof. Basically, I think is a fair way of putting it. All right, here we go. Let's get some more Eric in. Mystic was the guy that took over at this dig site after Davidson Black passed away. Very interesting. Very so what interesting. What did they find? Well, they found only a few human skulls were found. They could tell, well, these human skulls obviously didn't evolve from anything else. What? What does that even mean? They obviously didn't evolve from anything else on the basis of what? What were they shaped like trapezoids or something? Like, that's the classic nuh-uh, you know. It's I'll drink to that. Yeah, okay. Also found that the brain size of this particular Peking man was smaller than that of your typical human. Oh, there is one thing I want to point out. So someone in the chat, Point and Laugh, says, I have a 65 million year old ammonite fossil, and someone else says, you should probably donate it, man. So here's one of the things. There are some fossils that are so abundant that
really doesn't matter. Like, a museum is just not going to care. Like, I have a tiny little trilobite on my on one of my shelves. Literally no museum is going to care for that trilobite fossil. It's not a new species. It's not an unusual specimen. So there are some things. Ammonite shells, some kinds of smaller orthocone shells, trilobite fossils of common genera and species, where, like, it doesn't really matter. Where it's really important are things like vertebrate fossils, especially terrestrial vertebrate fossils, where those are fairly uncommon. Even to some extent, teleost fish, if you have a fossil of those, it's really not going to be something a museum's really going to care about, because it's probably not novel.
I think there's even a case to be made that so I actually have some fossils in my possession as well, and one of them is a small ammonite. Sorry, I'm still getting over that. I learned the Pokemon first, Ammonite, the Pokemon. So I'm still trying to substitute ammonite in every time. But yeah, I think that there is a benefit to fossil hunting, quote unquote, under the lens of it gets people interested in paleontology and helps people understand how important. It's kind of like, are zoos a good thing? From an ethical standpoint, it's kind of up in the air, but they're vital because they teach people the importance of protecting wildlife in a way that's up close and personal that I think we need, even though they're sad and a big bummer.
Right. But
yeah,
everything is on a spectrum, right?
Right. If you find cool things when you're fossil hunting, donate them to a museum. But Dapper is right here. As cool as ammonite fossils are, no one is going to take it if you try to donate it to a museum. Neither would they accept a trilobite, even if it's a really cool one, probably.
Right. Unless it's something novel that no one has seen before, they probably don't care. Because they're just everywhere. There are places, even in places where you don't think of as big fossil hotspots, like not too far from where I used to live in Massachusetts, there's a big trilobite bed where you just find trilobites lying around. And no one cares.
Black Hisser goes, damn, I got called out.
No, because I mean, to some extent, I mean, but like, it's one of those things where, like, there's some things are of more scientific import than others, and ammonite fossils and trilobite fossils are on the low end. Same thing with shark teeth or mosasaur teeth. Like, whatever. If you find a mosasaur tooth, just keep it. Like, no one cares.
Yeah, it's good to entertain the ethical discussion, right?
I mean, it is important.
It's important. I want to note too that T-Cat says, unless it has perfectly preserved soft tissue. Hey, you're forgetting, we're evolutionists. We're in it to hide all the evidence of soft dinosaur tissue.
Right.
If you find it, throw it away.
Right, and get rid of it. That's why we're gonna disown Mary Schweitzer completely.
Mary Schweitzer, prominent fan of evolution.
And prominent Christian.
Precisely.
Oh. All right, here's some more, Eric.
I guess is 1500 cc, and this was 1000.
So it's a little bit smaller, okay.
Yeah, a little bit smaller, but there are...
The difference between 1500 and 1000 is not a little bit. I mean, that's a 33% difference. If
not to mention the fact that is the difference that makes a species. I mean, unless it's sexual dimorphism, which you can usually tell by other means, like having a pelvis or the teeth in many primate species, that's a big deal if it's not life history or
here's
a sexual difference.
Here's how I like to think about it. Suppose you went and ordered 3 tacos and they only gave you 2, and when you complained, they were like, it's only a little difference. You wouldn't be okay with that.
Yeah, you would be upset.
Yes, you would be like, give me my 3rd taco. I ordered 3 tacos. I paid for 3 tacos.
Yeah, also, this is something that you see creationists do quite often as well, which is they come into these discussions about anthropology with very little knowledge, even a cursory in this example here, of how species are denoted and why.
Yeah, actually, you know what? That 33% difference being no big deal is so stupid enough. I'm going to drink for it.
Yeah, I'll drink for that too.
It's just crazy. It's like, oh, it's no big deal. It's like, no, it's a really big deal.
Oh, Dapper, we have a good question in the comments.
Oh, okay.
Evolutionists, please show me whether the egg came first or the chicken came first. That's a question for you, I believe.
Yes. So if by egg we mean specifically chicken egg, then from a geological standpoint, there's no way to really... they're essentially simultaneous. However, if by egg we mean the general amniote egg, then the general amniote egg predated chickens by, 200 million years or so? So if we're going broad with the definition of each term, and so let's say we just by chicken mean... galliforms. This is as broad as we're going to get. So galliforms appear either around the end of the Cretaceous or the very beginning of the Paleogene. It's a little bit fuzzy on exactly what is actually a stem galliform and what's sort of a more basal galloanseriform. But the earliest we can put chickens is going to be the end Cretaceous. So the earliest things that you might think of as being chicken-like, and they probably would have been more like quail or grouse or something, are going to be living with the likes of T-Rex and Triceratops and Dakota Raptor and whatnot. Whereas the very first things that are laying amniote eggs are coming in at like the Carboniferous.
I very much like the idea of a chunky little grouse running around trying not to be stepped on by a giant tyrannosaur.
Well, we know that there were things that are almost certainly crown and seriforms, which is the waterfowl. So geese, ducks.
Yes, I've heard
like
that as well.
Yeah, so those were almost certainly around at the end of the Cretaceous. There's still some contention as to whether they're really stem anseriforms or if they're crown anseriforms. Just looking at the forms, they don't seem obviously distinguishable from crown anseriforms, so I'm willing to say they were probably actual members of Anseriformes. But, it's still a little bit controversial. But if you had looked at these animals, you'd been like, that's just a goose.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is the answer to that question. And if you have contention with the dating methods, that is a question for another day. And perhaps even some other channels, because I don't super heavily get into the dating methods. I did to some extent in my answers to Genesis Apologetics, or Genesis Apologetics Should Apologize, that's what it's called. So check some of that, where I go a bit into the various radiometric dating and stratigraphic dating and things like that. So check that if you want a little bit more. And also, there are a lot of other channels that go into much greater depth than I do.
I'm hopefully going to have our mutual acquaintance, Corporal and Anon, to come on and discuss radiometric dating on my channel at some time here soon. And he's quite the egghead when it comes to that stuff.
Yes.
Thank God someone is.
Right. Yeah, that is a great resource. And so check with Erika's channel. If you aren't subscribed, go do that. As far as I'm concerned, there's literally no reason that anyone who's subscribed to either of us shouldn't be subscribed to the other. Because if you're not, you're
quite true.
Like if you're subscribed to me and not Erika, you're missing a huge portion of my content. And if you're subscribed to Erika and not me, you're missing a huge portion of her content.
We do cover quite a bit of overlapping material, and I think that our work complements, one another quite well.
Exactly. So yeah, I think of us almost like partners with different channels, where I'm on her channel, she's on mine. So yeah, please go subscribe to Erika's channel, because you're missing stuff if you're not. Really cool stuff.
You dapper.
You're welcome.
Let's listen to Erika a bit more. What do you say?
All right, let's do it. I mean, I don't super want to, but we're going to do it because that's the point of the show.
Yeah, fair enough.
A lot of people in the population, especially in that area, that have the same features. So basically what they found was nothing special.
Yeah, you can go...
I have a quick question from Bob Ilapogu, who says, any truth to those popular, quote, Science Journal articles that claim that modern chickens are direct descendants of T-Rexes? No.
Yeah.
Nope. There were already crown birds by the time T-Rex evolved.
That falls into the same category as those who take any new paleontologic find and say, this changes everything about human evolution, or this changes everything about bird evolution, or whatever.
It almost never does.
Yeah, it almost never does. What that typically means is it's going to shuffle around some organisms or some dates, or move things back, which just makes things more interesting.
Right. But yeah, T-Rex it's a Coelurosaur. Oh, there's Mothra. So it's a Coelurosaur, and so are birds, and that is basically about as close as they get. Birds are very specifically Eumeniraptorans, and that is a much narrower clay than Coelurosauria. Tyrannosaurs diverged from the group that would become birds in the mid to late Jurassic, and there were already stem birds that are closer to birds well by that time, or well into the late Jurassic, and then by the time you get to basically the late Cretaceous, there are already crown birds existing. So,
right.
Yeah, T-Rex is not the ancestor of any bird, no matter what you might have heard from popular science journals or Kent Hovind.
And that's a very fun that is a very fun sort of deep dive to take, right?
Yeah.
Is the nature of how bushy the tree of life is.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to start making these really fine distinctions, and you get into the weeds, and it's gonna hurt your head in a few places because it's complicated, but yeah. It's interesting just how detailed humans have been able to determine these things. But let's get a little bit more Eric in here, because he's not talking about dinosaurs, he's talking about humans, and that's Erica's thing.
Let's do it.
Because Erika is a human.
Yes, true. Barely.
Africa today, and you can find the pygmies over there that only grow to be about 3 feet tall. So, yeah, I'm.
Okay, so I think Eric is now saying that pygmies are anatomically consistent with an identity of Homo erectus, and that's stupid. I'm gonna drink.
Yeah, I think he's actually taking it even a step further, and what I bet we're going to go, over here soon is that it's consistent with Homo floresiensis, where we find on Flores in Indonesia, or the Hobbit man, which is a fascinating hominid that we have that is about 3-ish feet tall, 3 to 3.5.
If he goes there, we're gonna drink for a successful prediction.
Yes, fair enough.
Yeah, and that's the drink for the stupid right there. So.
Looking as well in the book Bones of Contention by Marvin Lubenow, excuse me, available at thecreationstore.org. And he's got a section in there on Peking Man, the skull.
Oh, this is a real quick thing. By the way, back I believe in the 70s, there was actually some contention in China by Chinese scientists that perhaps the population of China had evolved directly from Homo erectus and converged on African-derived Homo sapiens. And so they actually did genetic testing to try and find out, and they found out, no, they were not. In fact, Chinese humans are more closely related to African humans than they are to Chinese Homo erectus specimens. So there's a little bit of... and we have a $4.99 US dollar super chat from Vandali1988, who says, "Hi from McDonald's, again, popping in while I have a free moment between cars. Split all this money with Erika, so Erika, give me a PayPal, and I will be sending you some money."
Consider my portion of that a tip for having me on so frequently.
I mean, I'm not going to force money at you, but if you,
I'm glad Vandalia is out there fighting the good fight and providing the good people with food during this time period. You'd be surprised how many people can't cook and do indeed rely heavily on fast food workers and stuff who are. Imagine that. Fast food workers deserve a living wage.
Yeah. So thank you.
I'm shocked we're having this conversation, but
well, thank you very much, Vandali1988. I can't force Erika to take the money, but she knows that I am more than willing to help. Pass along some of the super chat earnings, and so far she has very magnanimously declined every time I have asked.
No, I've got my arms are tired fighting off Ian all the time.
Erika, let people give you money.
People need to keep their money. I appreciate the compliments more than anything else.
I will say, if you are in any financial distress and sending me money, please stop. Only send me money if it's something you can afford. If you could flush that money down the toilet and not really care, then that's the kind of money I want you to send me.
Don't flush it. Give it to me.
Right, exactly. But yeah, that's the kind of money that I'm okay with people giving me. If this is like, this is money I would have otherwise spent feeding my kids or paying the rent, no, I don't want that money.
Ooh, quick sidebar. Mage Grey Wolf is working on their garden. I am also working.
Oh, I think we just lost Erika. Erika, are you there? Oh, we're reconnecting. Let's hope we get back. There's
out there.
Oh, we lost you for a little bit.
Oh no, really?
Yeah, we heard that you were working on your garden, and then it froze, and I got a little reconnecting beep.
Oh no.
I know. Oh, it might have happened again. Well, this is bad. Erika, if so, it just happened a little bit again. If it happens a third time, what I'm going to do is hang up and try to call you back. Okay?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. So hopefully it doesn't. What is it? Skype is saying that we have a bit of a bad connection, so we're going to see what happens. Hopefully it's okay, but we're going to keep going with some Eric here. Because we haven't quite doubled our time from last time yet, and we're already well over halfway in.
Let's double it.
Broad and elongated. Cranial capacity was between 750 to 1250 cc's. Anyway, Martin Lubenow goes through all the supposed missing links in one book, Bones of Contention, and says, hey, let me give you the creationist perspective, the creationist assessment of the supposed human fossils that have been discovered, and just breaks down all of these things. I have not read the whole book. There are chapters that I've read on specific things like his stuff on Lucy and other things. He actually has gotten to go and examine some of the original bones, not just the copies of them, but the original bones in many cases. So, good book.
Fascinating. I think I'm going to try and con him into coming on the show as well.
Do it.
I'll say that Eric Hovind.
So you need to fix everything, Eric. Eric gave us the kindergarten version. I want the 8th grade level of what's going on with the cavemen, man. He could really break it down for you.
Is that a joke?
I'll drink for it anyways.
All right, yeah, whatever. Also, we have a $6.99 Beaver Buck super chat. I think that's actually my first Beaver Buck super chat, which is, by the way, what I call Canadian dollars.
I gathered. I was thinking, where else could that have possibly been?
Which asks, did you see that TED Talk where a paleontologist posited that Triceratops was a juvenile Torosaurus, which I believe is Robert Bacher? I did. Also, did they really just find dinosaur DNA? So that one is a little bit contentious. There has been some experiments where chemical markers for DNA have reacted, which indicate positively the existence of DNA in dinosaur remains. However, they are not sequenceable length patches of DNA, and it is not currently possible to confirm it's not really possible to currently disconfirm that they are not dinosaur DNA to any significant degree of statistical significance. So the answer is, it looks like maybe they found some surviving fragments of DNA from a dinosaur, I believe a T-Rex. This is more work from Dr. Schweitzer, by the way. So there's DNA in the bone. Is it dinosaur DNA? Maybe. It's looking hopeful.
I think Schweitzer's work as well, or her rather group, published a paper rather recently that has chromosome staining, which is really interesting as well.
Yeah.
But it's important to keep in mind that the nature of these finds is very contingent on how old they are. And by that, what I mean is that, very similar to the fact that the Neanderthal genome was sequenced in the past decade, with much difficulty, because that DNA is very degraded. We're not talking about scooping out fresh DNA from these bones. What we're talking about is finding, genetic signatures from DNA within these bones. Unfortunately, it's not the same thing as being able to reverse engineer a brand new Tyrannosaur, which would be awesome.
Yes, it would, but no. Also, in regard to the Triceratops as a juvenile Torosaurus, Robert Bacher has been kind of famous for positing that things that were previously identified as different genera are in fact ontological stages of the same genus. And his work has largely been accepted with Nanotyrannus and Tyrannosaurus, as well as a few different pachycephalosaurids, including Stygimoloch and Dracorex, as essentially being ontological stages of Pachycephalosaurus. However, his proposal that Triceratops is a juvenile Torosaurus, or rather that Torosaurus is actually an adult Triceratops, which is actually the accurate way to say it, because Triceratops would be the previous name, so it would take precedence over Torosaurus. That has not actually been very widely accepted. The literature is not trending towards that being an accurate assessment of those stages. So, yeah, it does not look like that is the case from what I understand. And I mean, that might change, but currently most workers in dinosaur paleontology are very much unconvinced that Torosaurus is an adult Triceratops.
I think with Nanotyrannus, it's less of a jump to make just because the morphology is more consistent.
Yeah.
Through the life history.
Well, one of the big problems going from Triceratops to Triceratops to what we now call Torosaurus is the fenestrae in the frill, and that would be an extensive amount of bone just dying off apoptosis, complete with dissolving of the calcified matrix. That is, it would basically be an unprecedented amount of bone loss going through an ontological stage. It's hard to conceive how that would even happen physically.
Right.
So it's not looking very good for that particular hypothesis. But hey, more Eric.
All right. Hey, you've heard of Cro-Magnon man, right?
That's right.
What do you know? What do you know about him?
He is anatomically identical to modern humans. They found 4 adults and 1 infant. And even though this is touted as kind of the ape to human, ape to mankind evolutionary step, really he's no different than our modern humans.
Well, that was stupid, so I'm going to drink.
Yep.
The reason it was stupid is twofold, for me at least, and I'm going to get Erika's impression. One is because the term Cro-Magnon man is basically not used by anyone who's up on the literature, even vaguely familiar with it, because it is Homo sapiens, and no one is claiming that's anything other than Homo sapiens, as far as I know.
Well, yeah, you'll notice that what Eric and his buddy here are doing is they're going over a lot of the buzzword titles from the 80s, which is kind of a weird choice to make if you're going to be critical of human evolution. But I understand why they did it, because finds have been coming in essentially by the truckload, since the 90s and up, with whole hosts of not just new species like, Naledi or Floresiensis, but, multiple specimens. And with Cro-Magnon man, you're right. The problem is Cro-Magnon man is essentially archaic sapien. So what I was doing in the background, I went ahead and pulled up a picture just because I wanted to refresh my memory on some of the anatomical features. The brow ridge on Cro-Magnon man is impeccable, and the chin is, at least on some specimens, somewhat reduced. So we're dealing with an organism here that, while it certainly is human, and like you said, no one is disputing that, it still has anatomical novelties that are rather basal, and that's why we separate being archaic from being anatomically modern.
Right.
So, I don't understand what their point is. I guess it's very interesting to me that we haven't even traipsed out of late genus Homo yet.
Right. And actually, that reminds me of some video that someone made discussing the legendary Almas of Russian folklore and the possibility that there was an archaic population of humans surviving into modern times.
Yes.
Who made that video? Do you remember?
Oh, some random, modern ape that I know, but
In other words, if you're not already subscribed to Erika's channel, go subscribe and check out the video on cryptids, because there's a whole cool discussion.
I'm glad you liked that video. That's one of my least viewed videos. People like cryptids, I guess. I thought people would like them, but they're apparently not nearly as popular as busting creationists, which I enjoy just as much.
Well, it is also cool. Honestly, it sort of breaks my heart that is one of your least popular videos, because I liked it so much. I think I've watched it 5 times.
No, I'm glad. It's such a good spooky one too. I know. I had a good news person voice at the end. I was very proud of that video. I'm bummed about it. But you don't get to choose what people like, so.
I know. Well, I'm recommending it to everyone in the live chat or who's watching this after the fact. Go check out Erika's video about cryptids, because it's very cool, and it tells a really interesting story about a potential group of archaic humans that survived well into the modern period in Russia, to the point that they have living descendants today.
It's very interesting, and looking into it was a fun rabbit hole to fall down. So
Yeah, so go check that out after.
we got to get some more Eric in. We've got to.
He was buried with some pendants, some necklaces made out of shells, some animal teeth. Really not much different. Basically the same thing that, modern man. I think he had a little bit thicker bones. He wore jewelry. They found evidence that they were sewing clothing. They found various things that suggested that, Cro-Magnon man kept astronomy records. Kind of interesting. It doesn't sound like something an ape would do.
Seriously evolved ape. I mean, wow. Wow.
They buried their...
I'm going to drink for that.
Now, are we drinking because it's stupid or because it's right? Because it's kind of both.
Yeah, we're doing for both because...
Well, that means we have to drink twice.
Yeah, true. I mean, we could spend hours talking about the nature of various hominids and where their technology and where their culture begins and ends, because it's a very odd tale to kind of weave, particularly since we've got specimens like Kenyanthropus platyops, which is a species that lived alongside the Australopithecines that may have used tools. And what that kind of suggests is that if you're at the area of tool use to the degree of flecking, which is it's kind of on the fence whether or not that's what we're finding with it, because it could always be a misattributed hand axe.
Mm-hmm.
But that certainly suggests that we're dealing with a level of culture that might have aspects that just simply don't preserve well, which means there's an entire aspect of culture and history to many of these hominids that we may never know about.
Right.
But the ones that we do, when we find hand axes, that's usually when we start to find some of the other emergent qualities of quote unquote human culture emerging. So it seems rather arbitrary. Like everything else, it's a total gradient.
Right.
I mean. But
well,
good luck getting that into these guys' heads.
Even within modern Homo sapiens, this is going to come up in a future video that I'm currently working on. But there is currently a group of humans living on Earth that probably haven't actually managed to figure out how to start fire.
Well, yes, and it's interesting that you say that, because I was reading some papers back when school was still in session for me. I was looking into the self-actualization test, which is typically done using the mirror test, where you put, an animal in front of the mirror and you put a dot somewhere on their body. And if they look at the mirror, see their reflection, and then swipe the dot off of themselves, it's usually done with like paint or something like that.
Yeah.
Then that suggests that they at least have some concept of self, because they know that the mirror is their reflection. And there was this really interesting and very provocative note made that some primates, that don't pass the mirror test, this isn't necessarily indicative of lacking the idea of self-actualization, because humans that live in very rural cultures actually can't pass a mirror test until like the age of 6.
Really?
Whereas babies in urban cultures can pass it, in essentially right out of infancy. So there is this aspect of culture to whether or not self-actualization, quote unquote, in the concept of the mirror test is a legitimate means of determining, kind of cognitive ability or theory of mind.
I guess maybe,
which I thought was very cool.
Maybe we could say that passing the mirror test is positive indication of this idea of self, but failing it is not necessarily disconfirmation.
Yes, but there's also a potential aspect of passing the mirror test being a learned behavior, because monkeys that live in lab settings where there are a lot of reflective surfaces tend to pass it at a higher rate than wild or captured monkeys. So who knows really what the nature of this is, and is it a gradient in specific directions in the primate lineage? No one knows.
Yeah.
Not yet, anyways.
Okay. Well, let's get a little bit more Eric in here.
Dead. They buried their dead ritualistically. They found various implements that suggest that they had some type of religious beliefs. They found tools. They found other tools for making more sophisticated tools. They even found musical instruments. So this guy got around. I'm sorry, this ape got around.
Well, that was stupid because, of course, he was an ape.
It was stupid, and unfunny simultaneously.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's 2 drinks. Man, I didn't drink this heavily, I think, during the first one.
No, I know. That's because we're really getting into it here.
Yeah, well, I think it just gets worse as we go. That's my vague recollection, so buckle up for Erika 3 is what I'm saying.
Oh God, yeah, I know. We're getting close to the 2-hour mark, so.
Yeah, we're about 75% of the way in, so we're gonna we're not gonna get too much more Eric, but I'm hoping we can get another 4 minutes in or so.
Yes, I'm with you.
So anyway, that's Cro-Magnon Man.
You know, it is interesting to me that once again, you would have to want to believe in order to come to this conclusion, and the whole idea of how they get the dates for these things. They'll say, well, it was found in this rock layer, and this rock layer matches what we think its age should be, so therefore we're going to line it up with the right age, even though the whole geologic column and rock layer dating
drink for Mothra
is so invalid. It just doesn't work. People say, well, carbon dating and radiometric dating is how they got those ages. They came up with the geologic column, which is what they use to date a lot of things. They came up with the geologic column back in the 1800s, in the 1830s and 40s.
I mean, that's broadly correct, so I'll drink for it. I don't know why it's a thing he's saying, but okay.
I think too we're going to have to very briefly address this absolute miscarriage representation of geologic column with regard to radiometric dating.
Okay.
Which would be that the process of radiometric dating and carbon dating, both of them are heavily utilized in industry, and our economy kind of puts a lot on the success of radiometric dating. It's how we find natural gas and coal and oil and things like this. Because most of those finds are carboniferous.
Right. And that was one of Corporal Anon?
Yeah.
Okay. It was one of Corporal's big points in his recent discussion with Nephilim Free.
Right.
Was it like, hey, we can use conventional geology to find oil, assuming the flood model has been shown to not work because Zion Oil tried it and they nearly went bankrupt. And then they finally said, oh, let's abandon our young earth creationist model and just go with conventional geology because apparently dollars are more important than Jesus. At least to Zion Oil's ideas about theology.
Yeah, and we need to consider too, and this is like my bedrock point on this, is that radiometric dating is based off of a single and, as of now, irrefutable and unbreakable law of physics, which is the radioactive decay law.
Yeah.
And these are the creationists are a big fan of touting, around thermodynamic laws as if it's, all willy-nilly, but then have no appreciation for the laws that, of course, contradict their kind of paradigm.
Yeah. And I want to point... sorry.
No, go ahead.
I just want to say, I've personally staked my life on the invariability of radioactive decay rates. Personally, because I've entered a reactor compartment after a time period at which the particularly dangerous radioisotopes should have already decayed, making it safe for short-term entry. If that were a thing that weren't working, I would be dead now.
Yeah.
I would literally be dead because my life has quite immediately depended on the physics around radiometric decay.
Absolutely. And the physics behind radioactive decay, they have bearing in medicine as well. Mm-hmm. The nuclear medicine is, how you get a CAT scan or a PET scan or whatever you want to go in and get the insides of yourself looked at. They rely on these things, and that's why they have nuclear technicians come in and soup them up. So
yeah. Hey, I've several times sat on a nuclear reactor. if we weren't right about nuclear decay, that would have been a problem.
Yeah, that might bode not quite well for you in the,
Yeah.
in the near future.
Yes, I have physically sat on a nuclear reactor to get things done. There's
That falls under the category of don't try this at home.
well, if you have a nuclear reactor in your home, we have some other questions about what you're doing at home, besides just whether or not you're sitting on it.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So, well, actually, I will say, to some extent, you can classify some smoke detectors as a sort of weird nuclear reactor, because they're not really reactors, but they do depend on a relatively constant flow of radiation from a nuclear or a radiation source that does depend on nuclear decay. So that's another thing. If you live in a house with smoke detectors, chances are you're also betting your life on radioactive decay in a much less immediate sense than I was, but still. And here we go, more Eric.
Dating and the ages for those columns, or excuse me, for those layers. They didn't come up with carbon dating until the 20s, 30s, and 40s, the 1920s and 30s and 40s, so 100 years later.
I'm going to drink because that's stupid.
Yeah, also, for those of you out there who find yourself, kind of going toe-to-toe with creationists often, you can really date them, pun intended, by whether or not they refer to all of radiometric dating as carbon dating.
Yeah, because it's far from the only kind, and no one is using carbon dating to date anything past the very top parts of the geologic column. And by very top parts, I mean, like, if it's already lithified, it's probably not available for carbon dating.
Right, precisely.
Don't tell me they get these ages based on the carbon dating.
Oh, I won't,
Eric. They got a
Eric.
preconceived idea of an old Earth, thanks to James Hutton, who wrote a book in 1795
Well, that's stupid because it's not preconceived, so I'm going to drink again.
Yep.
called The Theory of the Earth, where he said the Earth is much older than people think it is. So he started this process of thinking. People took it, accepted it, worked on it, developed this geologic column that only exists two places in the entire world. There's only two places in the world you can find the geologic column, and that's in the textbooks and in the museums. You won't find it anywhere.
Well, even your father disagrees with you because he listed some 3 or 4 places where the entire geologic column was present. So I'm going to drink again.
Yeah, and I was about to propose that we drink for getting something right for once, because, credit to Kent Jr. for fixing Kent Sr.'s mistake of saying that we can't find it anywhere. Because apparently none of these guys have heard of North Dakota as a state, which under most conditions is acceptable, but not with regard to the geologic column, because you can't find the whole thing there, which is very neat. But yes, I will drink to that because I thought that was going one way. I expect nothing, and I'm still disappointed.
Oh, we got JG saying Erika is going to get smashed. Erika, are you smashed?
No, not yet, but we're getting there. Again, I am quite the lightweight, and while I've only had like 2 beers, that's enough to get me a good buzz going. So.
Well, you're welcome to come and backseat game on my next stream. So.
Listen, I've got to go support Speed of Sound over at his debate
yes.
channel. I've got to go Vanguard in the chat.
Okay, well that is also important.
But I can pull you up in the background and hang out anyways.
Okay, well that's cool. Like I said, guys, the link either to my other channel or to the specific stream is in the description, and so is a link to a Twitter poll. And my Twitter poll currently has far fewer votes than I have viewers. So go vote on that, because right now, Kerbal Space Program is winning. But there are other options, and if you would prefer that I not play Kerbal Space Program, you better go vote pretty soon, because the poll is going to end pretty soon. So get out there, get in the vote. Pokemon go to the polls, to quote Hillary Clinton in her cringiest thing ever.
Please, God, no. Listen. The fact that we're talking about Hillary Clinton and all of the things that encompass sort of the Clinton dynasty. And Pokemon Let's Go to the Polls, for me as well, is the worst thing to come out of that entire ordeal. The entire 2016 ordeal.
So cringy.
Really says something about that.
Oh, man. That was
I
the
saw that,
cringiest.
I closed my laptop and I didn't open it for the rest of the day. I was like, that's enough.
Oh, man. That is... I don't normally say things like this, but that is about as boomer as it gets, Hillary.
It really is very boomer. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so here we go.
Where else in the world? So they develop this imaginary column, give dates to all the layers, say here's what fossils you're going to find in it, and then they're off and running. They've got a whole world view that is all based on fantasy and imagination, but it doesn't matter now because people accept it. So The frustration of trying to correct everybody on that.
Yeah. So let me get that straight. Okay. So wasn't it Charles Lyell that was reading James Hutton?
He's one of the main guys. Yeah, Charles Lyell, that came up with the geologic column.
And so he comes up with this column.
That's broadly correct. I'll drink first. Eric getting something right. I managed to get the names roughly right, so you know.
He assigns dates to the layers,
Well, that's stupid. So I'll drink again.
God, Eric, please.
Because relative dating and assigning absolute dates aren't the same thing. I know. Erika you're gonna have a hangover.
Oh God, yeah. You know what though? It's been quite some time ever since I had to move back home because of the virus. I haven't had the chance. But
Eric is solving that problem.
My UK fans are trying to organize a Zoom wine and cheese night, which used to be our code for getting hammered on wine together.
That actually sounds like a good idea, and I would say go for it because.
No, I'm definitely doing it. It's supposed to be on Friday, so.
Actually, a few weeks ago, I video called my parents because check in, and I noticed that they're oddly well dressed for a quarantine. I'm like, oh, hey guys, what's going on? And they're like, oh, we're getting ready for a video cocktail party. I'm like, all right, cool, nice. So yeah, my parents were getting ready to video chat with their friends and drink cocktails in nice clothes, it's awesome.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, so you know what? Don't let quarantine stop you from having fun with your friends. Video chat them. Go on Discord. Go on Skype. Go on Zoom. Do what it takes. Have fun. It doesn't have to be drinking, but do whatever you would normally do and just do it online.
Absolutely, yeah. I've used this as a great opportunity to catch up with some old friends as well.
Yeah.
And some current friends. My buddy in South Africa, who was the only one of my group, actually managed to make it out there for her data collection. Because she got out there and then just ignored everyone telling her to come back. She was like, "Nah, I'm already here. I'm just staying." And I was like,
nice.
Man, credit where credit is due. I was on the phone with her a couple days ago, and she had to hang up with me for a bit, and then get back on the line because they had a spitting cobra in the kitchen.
All right. Oh, actually, I read an interesting paper about spitting cobras.
They're an interesting species. I've never gotten up close and personal with spitting cobras, but when I was in Thailand doing my undergrad research, I got to see monocled and king.
Nice.
Which were both very neat. Well,
it turns out that there's more than one species of cobra that can spit venom, and they do not form a clade.
Yeah, I found that very interesting as well.
Spitting has evolved convergently in numerous lines of cobra, which I found absolutely fascinating. I was like, that is a really weird thing that I would not have guessed. But yeah.
It's also... Oh, go ahead.
No, that was it. That's all I had.
Oh, I was going to say it's also quite neat that the selective pressure for spitting as a defense mechanism works so well.
Yeah.
That spitting is just... Apparently, it's just very effective. And I started to think about it, as, of course, a modern primate. And I was like, man... Every time something has spit at me, I've gone in the opposite direction. So, I guess. And
they aim for the eyes.
Yeah, the proof is in the pudding. They really do.
Yeah. Don't get spit on by a spitting cobra. It's not a fun time. But let's get a little bit more Eric in because we're coming up on time where we're going to call it. So here we go.
And he comes up with those dates out of thin air. He just looks at the fossils in the layers and says, this has got to be X amount of years old.
Drinking because that's stupid.
And he comes up with these dates. Time progresses. We come into an age where we now have radiometric dating, all types of scientific ways to supposedly determine the age of these rock layers. And you're telling me that they do not use radiometric dates to support the age of the rock layers? We're going off of what Charles Lyell said in the 1800s. And they don't have any solid radiometric proof that these layers are the age that they say they are?
Well, here's what they'll do is...
and he said we don't have any solid radiometric proof that those layers are the age that we say they are, and we do, so I'll drink for that too. Goodness. Yeah, we'll keep going for a bit.
Anytime with radiometric dating, if they find an age that matches what the preconceived idea was on the age of these rock layers, they'll accept it. If they get wild dates that are outside of it, they'll just reject it and say, oh, that was a bad sample.
That's not how that works, so I'm going to drink again for that.
I want to make a quick note on this. Creationists just assume that geologists and people who work in the oil industry just have absolutely zero methodology for these kinds of things.
Yeah.
I mean, dating rocks isn't as simple as grab a couple off the ground and chuck them into the machine. You know, there's a very tight set of parameters for things that can be tested with accuracy with regard to how old it actually was when it was formed,
Right.
or rather how old it has been since it's been formed. So, you know, this classic mischaracterization has got to stop.
It won't. It just won't. I mean, I agree with you, but it won't. Oh, drink for Godzilla. Actually, that polishes off my second drink. And
I know I'm close to being done as well.
we're basically at the point where we have gone through another third or so of this video. So I think what we're going to do is I'm just going to call it here. And I'm going to go through a little bit of channel news and then ask if Erika has anything to plug. And then we're going to call it. And please do come along and check out my gaming stream. It's currently looking like Kerbal Space Program is what I'm going to stream. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to try and fly rockets while drinking because I still have a little bit more beverage poured. And I like to... So what I do for these is I actually pre-stage usually 5 glasses with liquor in the freezer.
Oh, God.
And then I pour mixer into them as we go, which cuts down on how long it takes me to actually get the next drink out.
Well, that's smart.
Yeah, thank you. So, yeah. I'm going to polish those off. So I think there's 2, maybe 3 more. So as we go, I'm going to get worse and worse at flying rocket ships. But that's... if you're not blowing up in Kerbal Space Program, then why the hell are you playing Kerbal Space Program?
That's a good point.
Yeah. So do check that out. As far as channel news goes, let's see. Thursday, there is going to be my FAQ video because I have been noticing some themes in the questions I get in the comments, and I'm getting tired of answering the same questions. So there's now an FAQ video that I can point people to. It's going to cover a bunch of things. It's going to cover things like why I started the channel, some language questions. It's going to answer some questions about some questions I actually already answered. Oh, well, I would like to drink for Mothra, but I'm out. So yeah, check that out.
Does it for me too.
It's going to be a quick video. I think it's like 11 minutes long. Saturday should be Leaving Young Earth Creationism with Corporal Anon. That is the plan.
Sweet.
That should be at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. So stay tuned for that. Then the next Tuesday will be the next Kent with Bent. Kent with Bent, I believe it's 24, the Hovind Heresy. Yes. Yep. Which actually that title was a specific request from TD Lane, and the thumbnail is based. Yes, the thumbnail is based on the Horus Heresy from Warhammer 40k, which I don't know if you're familiar with, Erika.
Not too much. I mean, as far as RPGs, particularly of that nature, D&D is more my speed.
Well, I'll just say this: Warhammer 40k is about as testosterone-soaked a setting as has ever existed.
Yeah, it's
So.
my. You would be surprised though. My D&D characters, I really get into the role playing aspect and pick the most like opposite of my personality as I can.
Well,
either like a bulked out half orc or like a sneaky rogue that's.
Well, Erika,
you know,
I'm trying to set up a 40k thing. Come hang out, and you can be a giant genetically engineered super soldier who lives for nothing other than slaughtering his enemies, and the people who are his enemies are the people who are near enough to slaughter.
Can I be a genetically engineered super soldier that is top half human, bottom half gorilla?
Probably.
Okay, that works.
So yeah, send me some messages and we'll work something out. TD Lane and I are trying to set up that campaign. Which also means if other people are interested, check out the Warhammer 40k chat section on my fan Discord, because we're trying to get a Black Crusade game going where everyone's going to be chaos worshipping heretics who are out to destroy the Imperium of Man and toss down the false corpse emperor from his golden throne on Holy Terra. Holy in quotes, because of course there's nothing holy about Terra. Anyway, that's rather separate. So then the Thursday after the Hovind Heresy is probably going to be the next episode of Noah's Zookeeper, which will be the penultimate episode of Noah's Zookeeper. And I have no idea what's happening that next Saturday. It might be the Darmok, the episode about Darmok from Star Trek: Next Generation, where I talk about the horrible linguistics that were done by the writers of that episode, because it's bad. Which also will touch on a few other tangential topics, like how to actually design an alien language that is not comprehensible by humans, but that still is actually possible as a language. And also, I talk a little bit about North Sentinel Island.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So if you're familiar with North Sentinel Island, you might be interested there. Actually, I vaguely referenced them in this particular video because they were on my mind. The Sentinelese, who are one of the groups of humans who it's very questionable as to whether or not they have mastered the ability to start fires. They use fire, but it's not clear if they start fires. They might just be able to find fires from like lightning and then tend them.
Harnessing them.
Right. So check that out. It'll be Star Trek. There will be Star Trek, linguistics, and anthropology all in one video. So, I mean, if that doesn't interest you, then why are you watching my channel, honestly?
Be there, be square.
Exactly. So that might be Saturday. If that's not Saturday, because it'll depend on how fast I can get the thing done, then it'll probably just be the final episode of Noah Zookeeper. And then the following Tuesday is almost certainly going to be Kent with Bent 25, No Country for Old Men. I know. You're always waiting to see what the next movie reference is, aren't you?
That really is one of the high points for me, you know.
Well, we haven't run out of movie references yet, and so we're pretty happy about that because we keep coming up with nice movie references. But that is going to be it for me. Erika, what do you have to plug?
Oh, not too much. Hopefully, I've got my Permian video still coming up. I keep pushing it back because I've started a new I'm kind of starting a semi-new series on classic creationist arguments that has been spurred by, of course, a video that Standing for Truth has done, which, you know, that's where all my inspiration comes from, apparently. But I've been dragging my feet on actually filming it, like finishing filming it, rather, and things like that, because I've had the excellent opportunity to talk to one of the authors on the chimpanzee genome paper from back in 2005.
Okay.
So I'm really drilling him to make sure that I've got my stuff right, so I can use him as a source if need be, which will be really cool because essentially the first video in the series is going to essentially tackle what I believe to be the biggest genetic kowtow to creationism, which is why are humans and chimps considered of different kinds, but house cats and tigers are considered of the same kind.
Right, especially given house cats and tigers are way more divergent genetically.
Absolutely. And we're going to be talking great apes. We're going to be talking genetic diversity, Y chromosomes, microRNAs. I mean, it's the whole genetic 9 yards, and I've had to really educate myself and take a refresher on genetics for it, because it has been quite some time since I've had to understand all the genetic jargon that exists.
Okay.
So yeah, and then, last thing, if you feel so inclined, you can come over to our good friend Standing for Truth's channel tomorrow evening, because I'll be having a discussion with prominent internet young Earth creationist / intelligent design proponent John Maddox. So we'll see how that goes.
Well, that's one prickly pear right there.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Yeah. Yep. And actually, I know because I've handled prickly pears, and you have to wear gloves.
Yeah, so luckily, you know, I've said this before, I'm not the type of person to get particularly riled. And I believe the main contention is actually going to be abiogenesis, because as we've heard him say before in previous debates, he believes evolution is the fruit of a poisoned tree, and thus he's a very much origins or bust arguer.
Oh my goodness! Why
I've had to brush up on my abiogenesis lit as well, which is why I was supposed to have a video out today, but I don't because I've been reading too much.
Honestly, I just wish creationists would ask for like creation versus abiogenesis debates. Just ask for that debate.
I know. So thankfully, I specifically asked Standing for Truth. I was like, what is the title going to be? I need to know ahead of time, because if this is going to have anything to do with abiogenesis, I'm going to have to brush up. But I didn't actually get the title until tonight, so thank God I kind of anticipated, all right, most conversations I've seen Maddox have involve abiogenesis, so God, there's a lot of lit out there, though, and I've had to review my biochemistry, which is driving me crazy because I hate biochemistry.
There's a reason that my primary area of interest is what shape bones are, and not biochemistry.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not actually. One of the only tests I've ever failed in my life was a chemistry test. So
yeah, no. Message to chat. Don't feel obligated to show up. I know there are quite a few people out there who don't really support what Standing for Truth is doing over there on his channel. I'm speaking for an open dialogue, and because I hope someone over there might get something out of it. But by no means feel obligated if you don't want to support the channel or anything like that. Don't feel like you have to. I was just throwing it out there in case anybody wanted to.
Well, there you go. I will probably be in the chat. I can't completely guarantee, but it's my plan. I think that's going to be it. So I hope I will see you guys over on Top Hats Off, where I will be streaming almost certainly Kerbal Space Program unless some people really get out the vote for some other game. I'll talk to all of you later. Thank you for watching. I'm the Dapper Dinosaur, and remember, links are in the description to anything you could possibly want, including Patreon, Erika's channel, Amazon wishlist, Discord server, Twitter. Maybe Facebook. I have a Facebook. No one cares about my Facebook. All right. I'll talk to all of you later. Bye.